What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday afternoon, and it's time for Plastic Platforms with your favorite friends, Centurion 1307 and Stubbs. How you doing, Stubbs?
I'm doing well. I'm just going to
Jesus,
make a quick correction.
it's
Shout
when
out,
it's
but it's
Monday.
Monday after it's Monday afternoon,
I don't know
Monday
what day
night.
it is. I live in my own world. I reject your reality and I substitute my own. Damn it,
Oh man.
do that shit all the time. Well, it's already off the rails. This show's going great.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been good. We're trying to keep the 2 week momentum up. We are, and it's working. It is. Yeah. So how have you been?
I'm doing good, man. Just doing like we talked about in the pre-show. Pretty sure this will bore people. Doing the Google Skill Shop, getting my Google certifications and understanding how the Google algorithms work. That's always fun. Um, Obviously doing my professional job, and in between trying to play some games as much as I can. Finally went out yesterday, bought myself an Xbox 360. Picked up whatchamacallit, like Space Marine. I have like Alpha Protocol, picked up Turok, Black Site Area 51. And then also I had a PlayStation 3. Now here's a story behind that PlayStation 3 real quick. I was helping my boss's son clean out a locker of his stuff, and he pulled out this PS3 and told me to put it in the trash. This was like a year or two ago. This is a Gen 1 PS3 that has the little magical door in it and the SD slots and stuff. Like, I mean, like it has the built-in PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. And he told me to put this thing in a dumpster because he did not have a controller or a cord for it. And I, yesterday, while picking up that 360, I grabbed a controller and a cord, came home, fired that thing up, wiped its memory. And dude, I mean, I think he barely used this damn thing. It's pretty damn quiet. I mean, I've had some pretty noisy PS3s, so I'm excited. I got my Gen 7 consoles working again, so I'm literally set up to play whatever I want from Gen 7 forward.
That's good to hear. That it sounds like you've been quite busy then with
Dude,
SEO
yeah, no rest for the
learning.
weary.
But it's
Oh,
quite an interesting area because if you can nail SEO down, it can really help. It can.
is it weird
Somebody's
that
big.
I love learning about SEO? I've had people call me a snake oil salesman because they don't understand SEO and they think it's a bunch of hogwash. But I mean, I've seen some pretty cool stuff take place if you know how to use SEO. And like I was explaining to you, it's more than just typing in some random words as tags or whatever you want to call them, keywords. There's like a little bit of a science to it, and there's also different symbols involved in letting the search engine understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It is, but it's something you really got to know about. It's if you want to get into the podcasting / YouTube world, it is just it's
Well, I'm doing it more than
hopefully.
just I fell in love with SEO from doing oh, what's up, Daz?
Welcome
I've
UK Lazarus, but Boldman Gamer BMG.
um I fell in love with SEO doing um obviously the YouTube thing. I was really exposed to SEO by Lord Cognito over on the Iron Lord's
Iron
website.
Lords.
Yeah. Like lordsofgaming.net. Yeah, lordsofgaming.net.
That's it. Yeah.
Shout out to Lord Cognito. I wrote a few articles for lordsofgaming.net. And he exposed me to something in WordPress called Yoast. And that's where you have to write an article based on the concept of keywords. It reads your article as you go. I'm pretty sure you remember with BG4G Hub.
Yeah.
There was unless you paid for the Yoast algorithm, you got rudimentary Yoast stuff, and I believe Masked Mayhem actually picked up the Yoast algorithm because I remember it was that
Yep.
the red light, yellow light, and green light, and it like graded your work as you wrote. And the green lights basically represent your how fluent it is for search results. And that's where I kind of fell in love with doing SEO, was doing that for BG4G Hub and Lords of Gaming. And that's where it's kind of like gone beyond that, because now I'm exploring the world of marketing and trying to get myself into a different line of work and a different career path. And I just went down the Google rabbit hole, and I'm having a lot of fun learning it.
Good to hear. It's very interesting. I remember the BG4G days, how fun they were. I never actually wrote much, to be honest. I didn't. But it was a fun time, it was. Shout outs to Mass Mayhem. Good bloke. I found his podcast a couple of weeks ago. LOD Perspective. I was on there with Tom Wilde and Mass Mayhem and Lewis as well.
I spoke with Mast a few weeks ago. We were chatting back and forth on the Twitter DMs. How's Tom Wilde doing?
Yeah, no, he's doing well. He's returned to game. Well, he's returned to the community, but he's happy just being on the LOD Perspective podcast. But he's doing all right. It's a good show. I've always liked LOD. I've always wanted, because I actually feature on it. If you didn't know that, weekly, even when I'm not on it, they've got a section called where you ask a question, and it's called. They always play my clip. I'm one of the clever people. And it got taken from a clip when ACS Husk was doing like Stubbs Cast, but he did a Creator Corner version, Creator Feature version, sorry. And I was telling them about how you stacked up when they first started doing Ultimate, how they stacked it up. I'm one of the clever people for doing it, and it got clipped from there. But when I was on there on the LOD Perspective, I've done 3 or 4 live versions of it. So they got some new versions of it. They have. Interesting fact if you listen to him.
Man, where do we start today? Where do we want to start? The good, the bad, or the ugly?
Well, there's a few bits. I mean, I don't know. I've seen some bits and pieces on Xbox Game Pass. It's family plan, but they reckon that word circling that it's not actually going to be called Xbox Game Pass Family, more Xbox Game Pass Family and Friends.
Well, yeah, because
that pretty good, wasn't it? Because for a lot of people, I mean, it will work out much cheaper rather than have you, because they know what people are going to do, don't they? You know what I mean? Yeah. Then it gives people the option to use their friends or family to make it cheaper for them. It will,
Well, it's
quite a good deal, that.
It's kind of like the game share thing, which is where, this is where I get very controversial in what I say stuff, because literally, I totally understand why Microsoft and these other companies came out with game sharing for one other console. You can't sit there and buy hundreds of dollars of games and share your password out to everybody and your grandmother, and they get access to your library. I mean, we're seeing crackdowns on streaming services doing this now.
Yeah.
And that's where it's it's at least nice to see that Microsoft knows that people were going to go beyond the realm of family. And I love the fact it's marketing to friends and family, but that's also really smart marketing, especially when you look at it from what I've been doing with Google. Most people, when they see the word family plan, no offense, you're going to have that one train thought. Oh, I don't have enough family for that. Nobody in my family plays. But if you put friends in family...
That's what UK Daz has just said. Won't bother me. No one plays on my Xbox apart from me. So,
And you know what? I game share with my wife. And basically the console I game share with is literally 2 feet from the primary console. So it's just I have access to both of these consoles. It's not the end of the world for me when this whole game sharing situation, I was just happy that I could share games with my wife. So me and her, we play a lot of a game called Farming Together. And yeah, I bought one copy of that game, and she game shares that with me. Which also, she has access to my Game Pass subscription. I'm not having to fork out all these different subscription fees and buying multiple versions of the same game. So for my situation, the system that Microsoft originally created was perfect. But when I look at like Fuzzy Belvedere, really great guy. He has kids. I mean, like he was paying for multiple Game Pass subscriptions, and this is going to be something that benefits somebody like him because he can now share these Game Pass subscriptions amongst his family and a couple friends if he wants. Or if we look at Crusader from over on the TXR podcast, he's already got a group of friends ready to go when this hits, and they're all going to pitch in together. And he's making jokes that if the Activision deal, when it closes, if it closes, he's like, dude, we're going to be able to get Call of Duty on Game Pass eventually, and we're going to be paying $5 a month for Game Pass.
It's not bad. It's like BMG. Like he has 5 in his 4 teenagers in his house plus him. So this will save him a fortune because he's paying currently $10.99 per account. So, but he buys the codes when they're on offer and stuff. Gets good deals on them, but this will help him massively. I wonder when it will launch though. Do you think it will launch this year? Do you think sometime this year? Do you reckon?
With the fact that they're already, getting out the trademarks and stuff for it,
because it's got to be difficult though. Because although it sounds excellent and it is, the implementation of it's got to be fucking difficult, and they've got to convince the developers that are in Game Pass to get on board with it. They have as well. Because whereas it's one account before, maybe 2 of your games shared the Game Pass, because you can do that.
Well,
it's not. I don't think it's as simple as it is. I bet you it's been in the works for quite a long time, working out the technicalities.
More than likely, but if we look at like what Tim Dog says, this is going to be a very. I have to agree with Tim Dog though, but this is where a lot of people probably don't want to accept this, but. With the friends and family situation, we could potentially see subscriptions for Game Pass over 100 million, probably sometime in 2023. Now, obviously, we know that's going to be people that are sharing the friends and family plan or all this other stuff to combine that because technically.
So you mean like people, if you were to include numbers of people in the like say 5 people or 4 people per plan, do you mean that number, or do you mean 100 million separate 5 peoples, or does he mean just the amount of players in the eco? Does he mean the total numbers, or does he mean 100 million accounts, or does he mean like you got each account's got 4 or 5 users in family and friends? Does he mean that numbers, or does he mean 100 million total counts?
No, we're talking we're talking active users. We're not talking per plan, and then we're not going to have 100 million people with their own separate subscription to Game Pass. We're talking between Game Pass Ultimate, Game Pass Friends and Family. Even they'll probably account those who actually share Game Pass like I do between me and my wife. That's where I'm probably seeing like over 100 million people actively using Game Pass.
Then I potentially agree, but maybe 2024 for that.
Well, you also got to remember it's also available on PC. They are definitely ramping up PC Game Pass. We saw that at Gamescom. We're starting to remove the parity between the two platforms. PC Game Pass is going to have its own games. There's going to be close parity, but there's going to be certain things on the Game Pass console and other things on the Game Pass PC. Like, let's like right now, big example, we have Age of Empires 4 over on Game Pass PC, and we have Crossfire X over on Game Pass console. And yet neither the announcement date for Crossfire X has not been put over to the PC, and same with Age of Empires 4. We all know eventually, if rumors serve us, that these games are going to be cross-platform, but they aren't as of yet. But
yeah, the PC thing's a hard one because the problem is, I do know people got PC and they've got Ultimate Plan, but they like Game Pass, but they also love Steam. But I just think on PC, it is an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle for them because games on PC don't pay for subscriptions. They just buy the games they want and that's it. So I'd say they do better on the console front, on the cloud front.
That's the only thing. Things are, the people don't pay for subscriptions on PC, but that's actually slowly going away. We see EA access, where I mean, like, literally you could play multiple EA games on PC. The Sims, my wife plays Sims 4. She's a console player. I know that there's a huge community on PC for that. And from being exposed to just Sims and looking at the stuff on PC with her, there's a large demographic of people that consume a lot of EA content through the EA vaults and the EA access. Same with Ubisoft Plus. Ubisoft Plus has grounded itself on the PC market. They're slowly transitioning to trying to get Ubisoft Plus on both consoles to expand that. We've also seen other services try to really what are some of the other ones that I've tried? Luna, the whole thing with Amazon. That's kind of very PC based. We've seen
that's a American project only.
Yes, but that's where those walls are slowly starting to come down.
Yeah, they are.
And now, but let's look at it like this. Steam and the Epic Game Store are both predominant, very heavy competitive marketplaces on PC. And nobody is trying to dethrone those two platforms because they are very well established, very well funded. They have game libraries that are unfathomable, that you like a lot. Like, I'm going to be upfront. I sometimes go look for games on Steam or Epic Game Store for games that I can't find on console. But that's where we're literally talking about a subscription fee of, at least for Game Pass PC, like literally Game Pass PC, I think is like what, $6-10 if all you're paying is for the PC. You're not paying for Ultimate, you're not paying for the console stuff, because I know Xbox Live,
it's probably about a $5 then.
And that's what I mean, for a very small negligible fee. I mean, like, I'm going to be upfront. There's people that probably spend more on a cup of coffee than you probably spend on having a month worth of Game Pass PC. And that's where, that it's more of the value proposition of, you don't need to fork out all this money to buy these games. You could literally, for $5, have access to a library of games that constantly has titles going in and out of it. And that basically is more like a supplement to what you're already doing on PC.
Yeah, I understand that. I just think there's more that they're not as open-minded as console gamers, because console gamers have always had to pay to play online. But just the PC players, that probably is going away, but PC players will just still buy what they want to buy. The vast majority of them will.
Right. And I see BMG saying that, Microsoft should just buy Steam. There's no way in hell the FTC would allow that to happen.
The monopoly. Well, this is the thing, because I've talked about it before, and I insinuated that I said at the time, ages ago, because funny enough, like, when shouts to VJ, if you're listening to this, I hope you're feeling well, mate, because not been able to get hold of you in a while. Good mate. He was talking about on Midweek Gaming like last year or something. He jokingly said, right, and you'll laugh at this. He said that Gabe would probably come up for retirement and should potentially buy Steam. This was all before Activision, was all announced. And guess what? A few days later, next week, there was a rumor that Xbox was going to buy Steam. It was from VJ. Nobody credited. It was a theory. VJ just said, when you throw them ideas out there, what ifs? Well, it circulated around the industry that there was a rumor that Xbox were going to buy Steam. It's mental, isn't it? It is, but you are right though. With the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the King, if it does go through, if they were to buy Steam, the FTC would really fuck them up.
It has nothing to do with Activision. It has everything to do with like like just because it and when we say monopoly, it has nothing to do with the breadth of how much they control gaming, because Embracer Group is way bigger than PlayStation, Microsoft, and Nintendo combined. But
Windows too, don't they?
Yeah, but the one thing is, Steam is a market competitor. And when you start buying out a market, so Activision is not a market competitor. They are a market creator. They create stuff for the market, but they are not actively competing against PlayStation or Xbox. They are basically a publisher that helps get games onto these consoles. So they're not theoretically competing with or against these companies. But Steam, on the other hand, is an actual full-blown market competitor. They have a PC platform. Microsoft has a PC store. Steam has a PC store. Microsoft has a subscription service. Potentially, Steam could create a subscription service.
Yeah,
you can't buy out you cannot basically snuff out a market competitor. That is anti-competition in its definition, and no regulatory group would allow another competition to buy out its competition and basically create an uncompetitive model.
No, they wouldn't. It would never happen. But people, BMG, I had a good mate of mine here. He was only joking, just to add a bit of spice. But
okay, that I know. But you're hearing it a lot lately. Like people are saying, like Microsoft
people literally listen to every podcast in tuning, and people just want Xbox to buy the entire industry. It's mental. Why would you want that? Because I know Microsoft are good. If you own everyone and you're top dog and you've got everything, and you wipe out the competition, Microsoft and Xbox would turn to crap because there's no one to fight against. They say competition breeds competition.
Oh yeah,
and that's what's picked up. That's what's made PlayStation better.
Well, I guess this
made Xbox better.
I guess this is a good lead off into the ugly side of the show.
There we go, Pete.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine right now if PlayStation did not have Nintendo or Xbox to compete against? Could you imagine what the price hike on the console would have been? Could you imagine how much that console would have been when it first came out, and then how much a price hike would have been if there was no competition?
Well, I remember when the PS3 came out in the UK, it was 450 quid. Now, back then, that was an unimaginable price for a console. Now it's okay, but back then that was an unimaginable. It was 450 because I remember I worked at my job and the boss was telling me how he's going to buy his son a PS3 if he does well in his exam results. He says, out of interest, how much are they? Well, I tell you what, I went £450, and that's without a game. What? His eyes were nearly popping out of his head. He couldn't believe it. Oh, I'm not so sure. He could afford it, but he didn't look too happy.
Oh yeah, my PS3 that I bought was a birthday present, but there's a caveat to that one. The first PS3 I got, and I had that thing for a long time. I bought that thing as a birthday present, but I got pitched in by I had two people I was close to pitched in $100, so they gave me $200. 100 from both of them, and I still had to throw in another $200 just to buy that damn console. And it didn't even come with a game. It came with Spider-Man 3, the movie.
Yeah, I got a 360. Well, I wasn't into gaming then. I bought it around the Gears of War 2 time. I did. But PS3, that was mental price. But yes, PlayStation 5 has gone up in every region apart from your Centurion.
Which I find kind of like that. That was the first slap in the face, in my opinion, to the rest of the world, to be like, we're going to raise the price everywhere except for the most competitive market for gaming, because we'll be eaten alive over there by our competition. So we're just going to make everybody else in the world pay for that.
Well, there is, because we were speaking about in Green Pass Gaming, and although it's not good, obviously, there was some conversation around the pound. Now, the dollar has always been, well, in my opinion, weak against the pound. Well, recently, the dollar is very strong. Like, for every pound, it's $1.18. So it's the weakest the pound's ever been, even against the euro. And it was suggested that because the dollar was quite strong in comparison, that's maybe why, because they did mention the exchange rates around the world. That's maybe why as well as the fact that PlayStation are focusing on trying to get the American market, which they don't have. They dominate Europe. It's obvious. Everyone knows PlayStation is UK. All over, that is PlayStation country. The whole of Europe is still PlayStation country.
So,
and America, they're after. They want to be the biggest console in America, and that is part of that. That may be why, but obviously you're not going to put it up in America, are you?
So, before I make my comment, I want to be at least put it out there that I am fully aware that Microsoft did raise the price of the Series X in India because of the depreciation of the rupee over there.
Wow.
And when we talk about, but now when we say depreciation of the rupee, I'm talking like the money is having a hard time over in that part of the world. But
that's a region, though.
That's like a region.
Yeah, but I'm not being nasty. That region is, I'll be truthful with you, not many people be able to afford a luxurious console in that part of the region. So it's quite a hard life. It's like how do I say that in Chamber? It's quite money wise, the jobs don't pay very well. If you know what I mean, it's harder. I don't think there'd be a lot. If you look at the numbers, if you ever look at the numbers, they never go into the millions of sales. It's a more basic way of life there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's more like Africa. It is kind of. It's not very people just have the basics, and there is rich people there, but there's more not so well off people, and they wouldn't be able to afford a games console in them regions. So I don't really know if it makes a difference in them kind of regions.
Right. And that's where I want to say that I know that Microsoft is not infallible from the statement. It's just the fact that Microsoft made a calculated price hike based on a specific situation. They didn't go across the board and do this. And the only reason why I said what I said on TXR yesterday was that when PlayStation came out and did what they did with the price hike of the PS5, it was completely tone deaf. Because what makes it tone, like, I don't care about the concept of inflation. I know it's a thing. I know the cost of living has gone way up. The world is in a big inflation crisis. Yeah. There's a lot of bullshit taking place when it comes to economies. I totally get that. But it's the fact that Sony, for the past year at least, has come out and said, we're making record profit sales. We're making profits on the PS5. This is PlayStation taking a stance on they want to make a profit on the consoles. When game companies for years have been selling consoles either at a loss or at cost. The only one that's the exception is Nintendo. Nintendo literally is their own separate entity. Like, it's the sovereign state of Nintendo. We can't really, whatever they're like, I've made jokes that they're selling Kool-Aid packets in the box because people are definitely drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right. I've got something funny now. My sister is not a gamer. Not a gamer at all. But she came around today and told me that last night she bought a Nintendo Switch. She was round a friend's house playing Animal Crossing, and she liked Animal Crossing that much that she She ordered a Nintendo Switch, and it's being delivered next week.
And
Based off playing it at her friend. She is not a gamer. She never plays game, never wanted to play an Xbox, and she was telling me how expensive it was. So I says, how much was it then? 320 quid, and I got Animal Crossing. So we must have the old Switch, because I was looking at the price of the new Switch. It was £298. So I was thinking, because their games hold value.
no, she got Animal Crossing with it, she probably got the Animal Crossing edition, which is it's a different colored. It's more like a teal.
No, it's grey. No, it's grey. She just said you get Animal Crossing game with it. It's just a grey version of it.
But it still has to be probably. It can't be the OLED.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at on the listing, and she showed me, and I couldn't see anything that said the OLED.
But that's the other thing too. Like, I don't think she would go out. Somebody who's not into gaming is not going to care about an OLED.
She wouldn't care. And let's see how long she lasts actually playing it. Because I said, bring it round here. I want to go. No. Just how expensive it was. 320. I says, there's a Series X upstairs worth 450 quid. I says, there's a PS4 as well. There's this and that. Oh, still expensive to me. I'm not a proper gamer. So, well, no, a definition of a game is anybody. I mean, my wife plays mobile games on her phone, as well as she does play the Xbox as well. House Flipper she likes that House Flipper game on Game Pass, which I never suggested that game. She loves it. It's about building houses, doing houses up and doing work for people.
No, I know. I've seen it on Xbox.
And she's also bought the garden add-on as well. So she plays them. But I said to a gamer is anyone now, because even Microsoft, when they say gaming market, when they talk about the 3 billion, Microsoft's talking about anybody who plays games, whether it's mobile or console. It's obvious that you're talking about anyone they are.
What was it? Yeah. Well, even PlayStation starting to embrace. Like they just bought Savage Game Studios. Yeah, welcome Savage Game Studios to the PlayStation Studios family. And Savage Game Studios is a mobile game studio. Even PlayStation's seen that.
See, Sony are actually in the game already. They've got a very popular game. It doesn't come under PlayStation, so you wouldn't find it. But if you looked up a game called Fate Grand Order, that is a big Sony mobile game. It comes under the Sony division. It's quite a profitable game in China and Japan. It is quite profitable. But they are in the game. It's not under PlayStation. It's under Sony instead. But yeah, sorry for derailing that conversation. You were talking about Nintendo and all that.
Well, we were just talking about like, it's the concept that Sony has come out and said that they are making record profits, and they're even profiting off of their console. So that's where
early. That is early to be profiting off it. Usually it's halfway in the gen, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's hard to profit off of it's hard to profit off of a console for sure. Sorry, bringing up the chat just so I can say hi to people.
Basuko, welcome. Thanks for popping in, mate.
That's where I feel like when you're coming out, like this is where I kind of have I guess I say my own qualms with the price hike, and it's not because I'm over here like, oh, well, I'm not a PlayStation fan. It comes down to, okay, for starters, the company that I work for, we've had to absorb a lot of inflation and not pass it off to customers. There was certain products that we were making. Let's just say right now, because of what's going on with the economy, there's certain products that we're selling that we're making 35% less on. We're not literally, we're absorbing about 35% of the cost now, because of the fact that we're trying to stay competitive. And even we recognize that some of this stuff is just getting stupid. And that's where, this is a double-edged sword. So we have PlayStation that's come out and say that we're making a lot of profit on what we're doing. We're making profit on the console. We have gone and started charging $10 more per game for first party studios. We're charging $70 for even remakes. Looking at you, Last of Us remake, remastered, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Oh,
because
it looks beautiful. It looks
regardless
beautiful.
of it looking beautiful, they're selling it for $10 more than when it originally came out on the PS3. And on the PS3, it had a multiplayer mode. So you're telling me
it did, yeah.
So you're telling me, like, let's remove the let's just say this game should have been sold at $40. You're telling me a better resolution and frame rate is worth $30? No.
Yeah, but they've built that game from the ground up. It's not just nut res. It's been rebuilt from the ground up. That game,
but they already had established assets. This is the problem from the concept of the purpose of let's think about it. When you're creating a game from scratch, you have to pay voiceover actors to come in and do the voiceover. Yeah. You got to have an editor come in and help do the sound effects and all the other stuff. None of that took place. All you had was a bunch of people sitting in the room remaking a game with assets that already existed. That means the framework for the characters, the animations for the characters were there. They just had to be remade they had to be remade from the ground up. Yes, but let's just say right now that I'm pretty sure the production costs of this remake were nothing compared to the production costs of the original game, because the original game had to pay voiceover actors. We had to have people creating sound effects. We even had to have composers creating the music, not to mention I think they were even still using a little bit of stop motion animation in there. We didn't have to pay for stop motion capturing because it already existed. And the big thing is also the production that went into creating the multiplayer. None of that's there. Why are we charging $70 for that? So that's where we're also looking at the situation that PlayStation also doesn't give upgrades for free. Over on the Xbox side, if I buy a game, for starters, at least we're talking first party. I don't want to talk about third party because I know third party can be a rogue. First party, if we're talking first party to first party, PlayStation first party versus Xbox first party. If I buy a first party game over on Xbox, I get my upgrades for free. I get a PC copy for free. And and they keep this game $10 cheaper. So there's three parts of an added value right there over on the Xbox side. Why is it that PlayStation has created these policies that literally nickel and dime a PlayStation consumer for every penny and every dollar that they can get out of any consumer that's invested into the PlayStation ecosystem? They have created all these avenues of more revenue, including revamping PlayStation Now into the subscription service that's somewhat modeled after Xbox. They refuse to give first-party games day and day in this service because they feel that they financially can't do it and they don't really want to. That's where I really do feel that PlayStation is going down the road, like what Paul Tassi has described, of they're starting to create a perception about the company of greed.
Now, the problem is you ever heard of the term, if it isn't broke, don't fix it? That's what it works for them. And as for the day and date, now, I've had a few talks about this with people. Now, because Xbox puts their games day and date, so say a game costs 100 million or 150 million to produce, advertising, etc. No one actually knows if that's profitable. You put it into Game Pass. Xbox has never come out and said if they lose on the service because of it, because they don't. PlayStation will say that because no one's ever proved it won't lose money. A lot of Xbox top content creators have been saying, oh, well, they could both do it. But there's actual costs involved. I mean,
you're wanting to defend the profitability of a company.
Yeah, I'm not defending it, but I'm just saying, if you look from a business perspective, Xbox is backed up by a $2 trillion juggernaut. Sony isn't. Sony isn't that.
Yeah, and that's
not...
where Sony has really screwed the pooch in becoming over 54% 54% reliant on the success of the PlayStation brand. Literally, Microsoft. You want to know the percentages on how reliant they are on the Xbox brand?
Yeah.
It's like 5%. 5% of the company exists on Xbox.
The last earnings, I think Xbox, I can't remember, but it's not even. I think it was the third most. I can't remember. They've got that many divisions into it. It's hard.
No, but I'm just saying, when you're breaking, if we were to take a chart and look at every avenue that Microsoft creates money, literally Xbox makes 5% of their revenue. 5%.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to defend them, but if you look at it from a business perspective, people, like even within Xbox, spouting their mouths off about they can put it in, and saying no, it's profitable through Game Pass. But these people that are saying it haven't got a clue what they're talking about. They're just guessing.
But when you look at when you want to talk about looking at it from a business, regardless of profitability, your competitor is doing it. And if your competitor helps create the perception that there is more added value over on platform A versus platform B, perception is reality. And literally, perception right now surrounding the PlayStation brand is, if you are wanting to game as a luxury, go be on PlayStation. If you're wanting to game as a responsible consumer who cares about every dollar that they spend, come join Xbox. And this is where the two models are starting to fork away from each other. Xbox is not going to raise the price of the Xbox because they want to get a device into every living room, because they know the minute they can get somebody to interact with the ecosystem, they know that their services and the value that they give a customer will keep them coming back. PlayStation, on the other hand, can't get PS Now off the ground, even with the revamp. They've got a couple 100 million people subscribed, but let's look at the fact that literally PlayStation 100 million sold. The best game that they can throw out is Spider-Man, which is 20% adoption rate. That's pretty damn low.
I would counter that to say it's pretty difficult to give the adoption rate of Xbox first-party games.
But that's the other thing. But you're looking at it from a first-party studio perspective. Xbox doesn't care about how much money their first-party studios makes. They care about the Game Pass subscriptions and the deals that they can do to get different games in that are second-party, third-party, AA games, AAA games, independent games. They are wanting to get people to come in and create the slow drip feed effect. Microsoft has no problem making money slowly, where PlayStation wants that freaking hit of money right off the rip, where they get that big influx of cash. Oh, look what we did with a game. But you got 500 million people to interact with that game. Cool. You peaked. Over here on the Xbox side, it's a different story because we have services like Game Pass. And that's where, that's the whole thing. Like Crusader said, I'm not, I hate saying his name, but Crusader got into an argument with Portal Rock. Portal Rock at least made a very sensible statement in saying that Game Pass is the best exclusive Xbox has.
Now, I'll tell you what. That is true. The best thing that the Xbox has ever created is Game Pass. But all I meant was I was trying to counter when you were saying that the PlayStation first-party games have a low adoption rates, and I was trying to counter it with it's very skewed at Xbox. You can't really tell because of the Game Pass. You can't. You maybe Xbox know internally,
right?
But they never tell you that. But they never tell you because like one game. It's like when they bring out these statistics, X amount of people, like Forza's got X amount of players. Do they mean that What did he mean that X 10 million, 5 million people when they do these milestones? Did he mean they've played one race, or did he mean they've pressed the game on? That's the problem. What do they? Do they mean?
So it means
Do they mean
people have
trying it?
interacted with it. We've already known for years that Microsoft went down the road of active users. Everybody wants those NPD sales. Everybody wants to feel justified in their purchase and knowing what other people, dude, whatever happened to, when you go to a music concert and the place is a packed house, you're not walking around asking what people paid for their damn tickets to go to the concert.
No, you don't.
The only time you're bothered is when you go to a concert and there's no one there. You're just like, oh my God, I paid to be here.
Yeah, it's weird though, because they say that though, but do you remember when Yoshida was in charge? He mentioned, was it Yoshida? He mentioned engagement rates were very important. So you are right. It just all that matters is that people play the game at the end of the day, and they just got a different way of doing business. But they are changing the way Centurion. You can't say they ain't, because they are slowly changing their ways.
They're slowly changing for sure, and
because,
that's where
and to be honest, it's Xbox is a lot. They've got a lot to thank from Xbox, because I think people don't realise though, but probably Xbox and PlayStation have been in talks and they're helping each other out, because they've supposedly got this Microsoft Azure deal. I don't know what they ever did with the Microsoft Azure deal, but PlayStation are changing it. It is changing. I think in years, although they are, what people got to understand is Microsoft's a very young, well, not been around a long time now, but the Western company. Whereas, although PlayStation headquarters is in America, they've still got the Sony board of directors in America that Jim Ryan has to go to. And I'm just going to make an assumption here. I'd say they're probably very elderly gentlemen on the board of directors that don't really understand. And Jim, by what he's done with PlayStation Extra and Premium, he's done that to see if he can convince them to do. They probably will do day and date in the end, but they need convincing. They're doing it slowly because the Japanese market, they're very much more cautious than the Western market, who will take bigger risks. It's paying off, clearly. But PlayStation are changing. But yeah, I can see what you mean. From value, like welcome Luke Steele, like Luke Steele says, I love Game Pass. It's fantastic, and in an ideal world, I'd love Sony to do it, but clearly Sony can't absorb the ongoing cost of a game subscription service like Microsoft can. And Luke knows his finances. He is right. But one day they will be able to. You see what I mean? They can't. They just got a different way of doing business. And whatever losses Xbox make, Microsoft make it up, you see. But PlayStation are changing. They are changing. Within the next few years, I would expect some day and days to start coming. I would. It's just a different business model. But in the end, one day they will just be the same. They will in the way they do business, because PlayStation wants more to learn to do more live service, and that's really helped with Bungie. The acquisition of Bungie was a great purchase for them, I think. I think
it's funny how you mentioned that there's two separate business models. Yeah, there's two different business models, but both business models have the same end goal, and that is to get as many people as they can into their ecosystem consuming content.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's where
if Sony was worth 2 trillion or 1 trillion, I'm sure they could quite easily do the same practice. Do you know what I mean?
But
they're not worth as much.
You know what the funny part is? Literally, that's where
I think what it is, a lot of it is Centurion. Is they don't want to take high risk, because when was it? The PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 saved them. The PlayStation 3 nearly tanked the company. I think they're worried if they go in too deep financially, they're worried there's something might happen. And like as you say, it's 55%. Did you say
It was about 54, 55% last time I checked. And that's why I feel like you're already in too deep. Half your company rides on one brand. And literally, that's why I have to laugh at the situation, because there was a time when Sony was making some of the best televisions on the market. They made some of the best video entertainment equipment. They invented,
I remember.
Dude, Sony invented Blu-ray and the OLED. Well, LG perfected the OLED. Samsung comes with the QLED. Well, there's Sony's OLEDs, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know a single person that raves about Sony's OLEDs. When anybody talks about going out to buy an OLED, the C9 or the C this, the B that, it's always LG. And if you can't afford an LG OLED, you might as well go with the Samsung QLED, because those are the two names that keep coming up. Now we were finding out that there's certain Samsungs and some OLEDs coming with Game Pass already built into them. You ain't gonna see Sony do that.
Invader Gaming, thanks for popping in, mate. That's why I see you there.
Oh, what's up, Invader? But that's where Sony makes some of the best camera lenses on the market.
Yeah.
Microsoft is going to be using them for the what is it? The AR. I know it's for augmented reality. A HoloLens. There's the word. Yeah. It seems like, and that's where I'm like, Sony used to be the king of tech. But now it's like PlayStation is literally, they took their eye off the ball and became way too consumed with the PlayStation. And, I'm not trying to knock VR, but look at what's going on with Meta. VR is completely stuck in a small niche of gaming. It's not mainstream. It's becoming more and more unaffordable. I don't see PlayStation's VR2 coming in cheaper than the Oculus is. They're gonna basically probably come in around the same price point.
The PSVR2 potentially might be the same price as a PS5.
Exactly, and that's the same as an Oculus.
The problem is VR will one day become mainstream, but the problem is to get that Centurion. Still quite a number of years to get to the level they need to be at. It's why they sold to Facebook, because I read the book. Well, I listened to the audio book about how Oculus first started, and they were the company who used to laugh at Facebook and they hated Facebook. And in the end, the guy actually turned around when Mark Zuckerberg walked in and said that the acquisition had happened. He's turned around to his own people and said, if you want VR to be successful in your future, you have to let Facebook invest in. These guys have got the money to take VR to the level it's going to need to get to, because we can't afford to get to there. So there is a space for it. Just that VR, you are right. Currently, its current form, VR is niche, but there will be a point where it might not be. But this is why they get like Meta has lost a lot of money through doing the metaverse. But I do think this meta crap will work in the end. It will.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm just saying a company I just feel like that's also a big portion of that 54% that Sony has invested into PlayStation. Is part of it's probably the VR technology, and the VR technology has not brought Sony a lot of money. If you want to talk about tech that is being built at when you look at it like return on investment, are you really getting the proper return for the investment that you're putting into VR?
From PlayStation, it's more that it's more from they look like they are innovating, because they are. With the PSVR2, it's quite, from what I understand from people who know VR, it's quite impressive. Like, also, by the way, you've butted heads with Luke Steele there. He's a Sony QLED fan. He's a Sony OLED fan. Sony OLEDs are fantastic. I have two. I also have the Samsung QLED and the LG C1. The Sonys are incredible. I've almost always recommended a Sony OLED versus LG. Sony still makes amazing hardware across the board. It's just that they have huge, really talented competition now in almost every sector.
I'm not trying to be rude or insulting, but if you want to see Sony's innovation at its worst, go look at the heatsink in the PS5.
He has a PS5.
I'm sorry right now, but the PS5 is a horribly designed console. The concept is there, it's sound, but it's in too small of a case. You have to buy specific NVMe chips with specific heat sinks to fit in the slot. That was part of the design problem for expanding the memory on the PS5. The heat sink was massive because they were trying to create a fake vapor chamber because they didn't want to use a vapor chamber because they didn't want to be associated with using the same tech as the Xbox. Their heat sink is one of the biggest reasons why the cost of the PS5 is supposedly going up, because of the materials to create the heat sink. The heat sink is not properly set on the board to distribute heat. As a matter of fact, the original PS5s probably more than likely had to get a letter from the manufacturer of the RAM chips that were on the motherboard, basically stating that it was okay to install the RAM chips outside of the manufacturer's recommended temperature zones, because one of the RAM chips was actually so far away from the heat sink, it was actually operating very close to a failure temperature. And like, go check out on Gamers Nexus. Gamers Nexus did a very good breakdown on the PS5. And he said the only way you can install a RAM chip in that position at those temperatures is you would have to probably get a letter from the manufacturer of that chip stating that it would be okay to do that. There is huge fundamental flaws in the PS5. And that's where, you want to talk about looking at innovation. Look at the Series X. They split the motherboard in half and they put it on the shape of an L. That was the first time in console history that you saw somebody did a split motherboard in a console. Let's look at the Xbox One X. The system on a chip that they designed for the Xbox One X was very proprietary, and it was also the first time in console history that a company decided to install a vapor chamber into a console to help actually cool that system on a chip. So, like, again, with the PS5, one of the cooling solutions to the system on a chip was liquid metal. The problem is with liquid metal is it requires a glass canister to basically contain the liquid metal, which is sitting on top of the system on a chip. And we all know how great delivery companies are with abusing products. By having liquid metal on top of the system of a chip, you also create a scenario of where during the transit of the console, whether it's through in the back of a truck being sold at a Walmart or a retailer, or being delivered by Amazon, FedEx, UPS by, delivery drivers that are very abusive with boxes. I mean, in my world,
it's the same here, mate. It's the same in this country. No better.
So by creating a situation with liquid metal, you're introducing a variable where now you could potentially damage the canister that the liquid metal is in, and the liquid metal would actually pour out onto the board and basically short out a $500-some console, making it completely useless. And that's where, just from a design perspective and somebody who is extremely OCD and loves technology, I'm sorry, but the PS5 was they literally they made this thing on a computer. This is how we can do to make it work. And they didn't really go through many revisions of the console, where the Xbox, if I'm right, the Series X has been redesigned at least twice before it came to market.
Yeah, so Luke said, so the NVMe element was a deliberate choice, though. So it didn't need a proprietary NVMe like a series console, which benefits the consumer in the end. Because what it means is, in the end, the prices will drop rapidly.
Well,
the prices will go down. But
the only thing is,
to be fair, I mean, the one on the Series X, I mean, it is good. but should you really have a card sticking out of it? Do you know what I mean? It's like the old PS2 ones. Stick your memory card in. It's different.
You know what?
Different version though.
The thing is, you can hot swap them. If you fill that drive up, you can hot swap that thing with the console on. Like I know there's a lot of contention on the fact that technically we have gone backwards a little bit back to the memory card days. That's a whole argument in itself. But if we want to look at the ease of use on a consumer basis, the average consumer cannot open up a PS5 and install an NVMe onto the board. People who know how to do that are a very specific style of gamer. And I'm just telling you right now, there is plenty of NVMe chips that can work on the PS5, but because of the size of the bay, your selections are very limited, and it's actually limited towards the more higher end chips. There is people that will say you can use this chip or the other chip, but Sony will not back them up. And if you install those chips into your console, you void the warranty on your console. You have to use the chips that are specifically recommended by Sony. And also, that's where it's the expansion bay. That's why it took so long for the PS5 consumer to be able to expand the memory of the PS5, because the expansion bay was made too small, and all these companies had to create NVMe chips that would fit into that bay, and Sony had to wait for that, where again, Microsoft's power of creating really good designed hardware came through. Before they even launched the console, they already had an expansion solution on the market right next to that console.
Yeah. I haven't got an expansion. All I've got is a standard old hard drive of 8 gigabytes.
Oh, I'll say it.
8 terabytes, sorry. 8 terabytes,
I bit the bullet. I bit the bullet. I have an expansion chip in the back of my my Xbox One, my Xbox Series X, but there's also whatchamacallit, there's 12 terabytes of an external HDD hard drive. And that's where, again, innovation over on the Microsoft side first is Microsoft made it to where you can use these very low speed hard drives to store your games. And when you're ready to play them, you can pull them off that hard drive and put them either on the external NVMe or the internal NVMe. PlayStation didn't even think about doing that until months after the release of the PS5. And that's when they realized that being able to at least store a game on an external drive is, is definitely a lot better than just having to wait an eternity for a game to download off of the network, or putting a disc in and allowing it to download and all that other fun stuff. But also, one of the things that I've always challenged, like, let's look at the PS5. I don't even dare put my PS5 in standby. I know that there's people that do it. That's on you. But I have heard nightmare stories about the standby modes on the PS5 effing up, and consoles basically losing data, having to rebuild all the data sets for the console to do its job. And the big number one thing for me is go put your console in standby and pull that hard drive off the back of the console and tell me how that works out for you. Because if you unplug your hard drive while that console's in standby mode, that hard drive will never work on a PS5 ever again. And that has been a flaw in the PlayStation ecosystem since the PS4. And it personally happened to me. I don't put my PlayStation consoles in standby mode, and I also don't hook up external hard drives to my PlayStations because of something that took place during the PS4 era, where literally I had a external hard drive that will no longer work on any PlayStation console because it was unplugged from the back of a PlayStation while it was in standby. But there's nothing wrong with that hard drive. It's hooked up to my PC right now, and it's where I record all my game captures. There's nothing wrong with that hard drive, but it's a problem that people call the scarlet letter of PlayStation, where if you do that while it's hooked up in standby mode, whatever like somehow PlayStation's console puts like the scarlet letter inside that hard drive, basically making it to where it'll never ever work again on a PlayStation console. But there's nothing wrong with it. Xbox, I can walk up right now and unplug my hard drive from it, and it's not going to do that.
I have no experience in it, so I don't know. I would say you're right. I've never done any of that before. I haven't, so I wouldn't know. Jeff B Gaming, thanks for popping in. Luke Steele said, no, it isn't. The space on the PS5 is a standard M2 NVMe space. You can pick up almost any you know what I mean, aside from a giant heatsink dependent versions. If you read it, can you see it?
What?
In the chat, what Luke put. It's the standard one. You don't have to buy it. But I think all you meant was that they said if you didn't use the ones PlayStation recommended, it avoided the warranty. You don't think you meant that you couldn't.
It's from the giant the giant heat sink. The expansion bay it requires a heat sink, and only certain NVMe chips have the proper size heat sink that will fit into the expansion bay. That's why I made the fanboy video back in the day where I said that Sony was going to partner with Dremel to basically help fix the storage expansion issue, because literally I was like making jokes, like literally if you want to be able to fit an actual different NVMe in there with a different heatsink outside of what's recommended, you have to take a Dremel to the top of the console and it basically carve out the top of the console so that way the heatsink can stick out the top of the console.
Oh, Luke wasn't arguing on the simple, like he's put. It's certainly not as simple an install as the series consoles, but it's quite simple because having installed M.2 NVMEs on his own PC, but he's got a PC and he's used that kind of thing. But
so for somebody like me who works in a very customer oriented field, I literally deal with customers that find it that have anxiety going online and buying stuff from Amazon.
Oh yeah, I bet you in Britain and in America, I bet there's places where you can take these in and they'll just do it for you. There you go, 50 quid, please.
But that's where, like, literally, it's also the thought of, all right, I'm going to take my $500 now $600 device and walk right up, and I'm going to rip one side off that device. Like it's. Like like people want to be gentle, and I'm telling you right now, from watching the guys who work on these PS5s, you got to be aggressive taking the side of that console off. But that's where that's where it's like, I'm not here to battle on, who has the better design console. It's just more like when you're looking at it from the perspective of a consumer, the average consumer does not want to rip open their console and play hardware developer installing a chip. Literally, they want to just walk right up and plug that damn thing in, which is where that proprietary thing came in. Now, in my opinion, I'm hoping later on in life, Microsoft will allow external NVMe hard drives to work on the Series X. I'm pretty that's where I'm saying maybe because right now external NVMe hard drives are very expensive. They're around the same cost as the chip. And it would be nice if there was a way to get these NVMe hard drives to actually deliver data fast enough for the Velocity architecture. But that's where I at least understand the mechanics behind and the thought process behind. For the Velocity architecture to work and do what it's supposed to do, it needs these proprietary systems to create this.
Yeah. So I had a little fun on that topic, since I think we should move on, don't you?
No, yeah, you're right.
So, did you get a chance to check out Destiny 2 showcase?
Oh well, I didn't watch the showcase. I watched the trailer.
Well, you didn't have to. Just
I
trailer.
I have a better source of Destiny information, and his name is Crusader over on
Oh yes,
TXR.
Crusader.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Crusader. He's already told me. I said, "Have you pre-ordered Lightfall?" And he's done more than that. He's pre-ordered the what was it? It's like, was it a console he pre-ordered? Oh, hang on a minute. He sent me a screenshot of it. It's like a top version of it. It was collector's edition. Hang on.
Yeah,
Where's his tweet?
the collector's edition of
Use
the Destiny.
Crusader.
I think I remember seeing Crusader talking about it. I think it's got a statue and stuff in it.
Hang on. Where is it? A little bit further up the chat. I can't find it now. No, I can't find it now. But he's ordered the top collector's version that you can get. Welcome to 4GQ TV, and that will be Carlo. Welcome. Thanks for popping in. But yeah, what did you think of the Lightfall trailer then? Did you like the look of it?
I do like the look of it. But that's where you know, how can I say it? I stand on my little rock out here in the ocean of saying that. Okay, so for starters, I want everybody to know. I'll take a photo of it if you want me to. If you don't want to believe me, I'll put it on Twitter. I have a little mini statue of Cade 6 on my entertainment center. I am pissed the F off that Cade 6 no longer exists. And like, let's go back to when Destiny 2 was first being marketed, and we had Cade 6 and the chicken, and Cade 6 was basically the face of Destiny 2. He created that fun atmosphere, the comedic relief. He was actually the best thing in Destiny 2, in my opinion, because he is what got me invested into Destiny 2, because he just had me cracking up. So that's where PS5 is better to stream on because of this. Okay. Well, I don't know about streaming. I will say that on that. And that's the only thing I actually use. I use an actual capture card and stuff like that to stream on to capture everything. So I don't stream right off the consoles. I want to know nothing about that. I'll be honest. So anyways, I don't like how Bungie has sunsetted a lot of good content and a lot of story content, stuff that I've put money into. I want to get into the new expansion that's coming out. I think, what did you say was Beyond Light?
No, that was the one. So it's Beyond Light, Witch Queen, and now in March it's going to be Lightfall.
Lightfall.
So your question. So we actually on the last plastic platforms I did bring up sunsetting the content. That's now a thing of the past. And after Beyond Light onwards, they won't sunset any more future Destiny expansions. Only seasonal content. You know, like your seasons. Only that will get sunsetted at some point. Not the expansions you pay money for. That's all. They're not doing that anymore. They're not locking it up in the vault anymore.
Yeah,
which is a big move in the right direction. It is
right. And let's see, 4GQTV. So that's where I'm at least saying, from talking to Crusader, I am on the fence of about getting reinvested back into Destiny. What will kind of push me over the fence is if they go, because according to him, there's rumors and talks about them unvaulting the story content that they've taken away, because they have actually over time fixed the game engine.
Well, that would be bloody awesome if they unvaulted everything.
Well, the main reason why they had to vault stuff in the first place is because, you know, look it up. I've talked to a few people about it, and I've also heard from Crusader, who is a very, very large Destiny fan, and he even agreed with it, that the game engine that Destiny 2 was built on had a fundamental flaw. And the flaw was when the game would get over 100 gigs, you would start having bugging, artifacting, glitching. The game would become very unoptimized and unstable. So they had to start controlling the size of the game. which is the whole reason why they started doing the sunsetting thing. And that's where I always said, I was just like, well, if you have a bad game engine, that's not my fault. You should have at least, when you sold this stuff to people, let them know that there was potential that this was going to happen, rather than, hey, we're just going to take this away and we're going to put it in this thing. Like, you're going to have it, but you're not going to have it because we created this thing. It's kind of like, remember how people associated the cloud when the cloud first came out? It's like, well, you have it, but it's in the cloud. So that means you don't really have it. Well, at least you can kind of access it. Well, that's the same story with vaulting. Well, it's in the vault. You have it, but you don't have it. You can kind of access it when we take it out of the vault. And that's where I want to get back into Destiny. I really hope they go down the route of at least putting in the story content that is there, because I mean, dude, like the first story with Gaul, and like basically the story that set up Destiny 2. And then we got into Cade 6, the Temple of Osiris, all that stuff. Right now, you can't go, like, that's the funny part. You can't go play that stuff. You have to go on YouTube and watch videos of people that have played it. And if it's still on there, because we also know Bungie likes to really police their content on YouTube and other platforms, especially when it comes to music. So,
who does? Sorry,
Bungie.
Bungie doesn't. Bungie is the most consumer friendly when it comes to their community content creators.
Right, but they do not like that, but they do not allow people to put certain things. They are very consumer friendly. They allow a lot of stuff. But it's also comes down to, there's been instances where they ask people to take down the music of like some of the stuff.
But if you upload a direct song, or like you rip it off their channel, probably. But if you do your own content and just play and record it, they're generally fine, from what I understand. They're not very. They're the most consumer out of all the games out there. You don't usually get problems. I mean,
you don't usually. They are very.
I've had problems with Gears of War because I was under understanding that Microsoft owned the Gears of War music, and I was really on the understanding of that. Gears of War 1, the Ultimate Edition, I'd once done a Let's Play of it. My Twitch streams, I put them on YouTube, and the original author was hitting me with claims. It wasn't Microsoft. I thought Microsoft owned that music, but the original author was hitting the videos with claims.
Well,
it was.
See, with music and stuff like that, that's where it gets really, really temperament. Like, in watching some of the recaps of Gamescom, like from GameSpot and them, they actually had to mute like a small handful of the trailers for the music. Some of the ones that come to mind were Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the Lords of the Fallen. There was another game, like basically they full on muted the game, or they put other music on that they had copyright permission to put on in the background, and it had a logo right in the corner. It straight up said muted for YouTube. And that's where it's just very that's what I mean by like policing, because Bungie themselves does not police their own work. They actually have a company that does it for them. And we all know that Bungie does not like it when people basically screw around. And that's where they're all like, I'm going to say they're the most consumer friendly, but they're also the ones that will literally, when they crack down the hammer, they crack down the hammer.
Yeah, they can. But yeah, as you were saying, the if that rumor is true by Crusader, then that's a good thing. If they're gonna,
I would
unlock the vault, so to speak.
I just really hope they bring that stuff back. I really want to get. I'm gonna probably wait till probably January, February before I say I'm gonna get invested back in, because the other hurdle for me is the new player experience.
They have changed it slightly. They've made it so currently, so basically you can reach light level they've done a thing in the helm where you go in and it knocks you up to the soft cap of the current game, so you can just jump straight up and level, so you get straight into the game rather than have to grind through. They just put you at the soft cap instead of the high cap.
But the
so
other,
yeah.
From talking with Crusader, it's more like, at least for me, I have some of the mechanics of playing Destiny down because I'm used to playing Destiny from back in the day. I understand the idea behind a group event, a raid, and all this other
just
stuff.
getting back into it.
But you have some of those fundamental mechanics already inside you. You understand.
I'm still learning. I'm still learning what's what, because it is quite. There's that much. I mean, for value for money with the game, with Destiny, you can't moan that there's that much content there, but it can be like also be overwhelming because there's that much of it. Well, but even I'm still learning the basics of where to go next and where my weeklies are. I'm learning all that.
And that's part of the flaws of the new player experience. Like Crusader and I chatted about it last night. The new player experience definitely needs to be revamped, and there has to be clear guided paths for new players to understand this is what you do, this is how it works, because literally Crusader even said it. He spends a lot of time helping people re-understand the game, because literally if you haven't played Destiny in months, if not years, when you go into there, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed, not know where to do. And like, I remember like literally during one of the new player experiences, I did something to where I had to wait. It was one of the beginning missions, and I did something to where I completed the mission before I was supposed to, before the mission was given to me by a certain character. But because I already completed the mission, I now have to wait 24 hours for this mission to reset for me to now play the mission again for the character that gave me the mission. So I basically undermined my own playthrough by participating in a mission before I was supposed to participate in it. And that's one of those things where I was like, well, this is freaking dumb. Like, literally, like, how is it that you are able to do a mission before you're supposed to do it? And if you do that, you kind of like shoot yourself in the foot for a day or two waiting for it to reset.
Yeah, I'm still getting back into it. Carlo said he's getting. Clowns has said he's also just got back into Destiny as well. There's a lot of people. I mean, if you look at the numbers on Destiny 2 on PC and that, the numbers have, since the event, numbers have skyrocketed. Now, I watched nearly the whole event. Now, what I gathered, they say that developers love making a game. What I got from that showcase was they showed various developers, leads and all that, and the passion for the game is unbelievable. From these, you could tell that a lot of these developers pour their hearts and souls into the game. Now, from what I gathered, Bungie seemed to be in a place where, because I've just started the Witch Queen campaign, which shouts to BMG bought me kindly. One day we were playing the game, we just dropped me a code for it because we're in the same clan. We're in a little clan. Part of that podcast we do, Status Podcast now, and it seems to be because I heard it on TXR a few weeks ago. I think Crusader was saying that this year for content that he's playing on his Xbox. Sorry, he said that Witch Queen was the best expansion content he'd played the entire year. He enjoyed it the most. So what it sounds like is Bungie now are in a place where they're creating great expansion content, and they're trying to do their best to keep the player base engaged. And they've got like whole story narratives for the seasons. It's like currently Season of the Plunder, and it's like basically pirates in space kind of thing. That's kind of the theme. And they seem to be trying to do their best to keep the player base engaged. And from what I can see, it's the best it's ever been. They're trying their hardest. You cannot fault them for not trying the hardest. It's live service is a difficult game to get right. You're not going to get everything right though. You look at the mistakes. Well, Halo Infinite will get there eventually, but like with Destiny, they seem to be in the right place, and I'm excited to be getting back in it. I am. But yeah, I really like the showcase. I thought it was good. And do you ever remember the Taken King mission in Destiny? Was it 2 Centurion or 1? You know the Taken King. Was that in Destiny 1?
The Taken King was Destiny 1.
He's back. King's full raid. He's coming back. It's in Lightfall. It's obviously not going to be the same one. It's going to be something else. But if you look at that trailer, it's Centurion. That also looks great. But I don't do raids. They take too long. I've got kids and stuff. I haven't got time for that.
See,
but it looks cool. It looks cool. It's the time. You see?
Oh, dude, it even goes beyond that. That was one of the things I remember when one of the last big things I did on Destiny was literally it was during an event. My friend's kid was like, "Hey, did you guys want to go with me and do this?" And we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. Freaking 4 hours later, we finally got the stupid gun.
Fucking
I was just like, really? We just spent 4 hours for a freaking gun?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was afraid to get back into it because BMG kept saying, what are you afraid of? Oh, I says, I used to spend a lot of time playing Destiny, and it's these raids. He says, I don't have to do the bloody raids. He says, none of us do. He says, there's plenty of content without the raids. I says, well, the raids, I can't do them. It's just too time consuming. I says, we got halfway, this can I was with on the PlayStation, and it was 6 hours, and we only done half the raid. I was like, that's what put me off. But I'm back now. But I won't really be jumping into a raid unless someone knows how to do it within an hour. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the other thing too. Like, so,
but that's the end game. That's for the real hardcore players.
Every time I did raids, literally, it turned into like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna bluntly say it turned into a clusterfuck. Literally, like we would get together with people that we met on the Destiny server, and then there'd be a small group of friends, and literally, as we're trying to do this raid, some of the diehard Destiny members are getting pissed off because the rookie members don't know where to stand or how to do the raid or what needs to be done. And I mean, like at that point, you could hear animosity between people. Like when they're like, no, you need to stand right fucking here and don't move until I tell you to. Whoa, man. Whoa. Okay. Now it's starting to get freaking hella uber aggressive because like, I mean, some of these people like take this stuff very seriously, and they don't have
because one wipe can mess it up. Welcome to Scarlet and Mucha Smiler as well. Thanks for popping in. But yeah, it's skillish. Not skillish, Scarlet. Just if that's how you say it. I've got a family. I've got kids. I can't be doing raids for hours on end. Do you know what I mean? Just I can't be doing that kind of thing. A lot of people can't. Ain't really got time.
Oh, dude. A good example is like Elder Scrolls Online. They have their own versions of raids that involve 12 different characters. I have put years into ESO and I've never been on one.
That's fair enough. That is.
I mean, it's like, dude, I had a hard enough time getting a group of 4 to do dungeons. I don't even want to think about what it takes to get a group of 12 to do a damn raid. I'm like, whoa, wait, 12? What the hell? So that's where like I would definitely say, at least from what Crusader has said, that they're starting to really implement a looking for group feature that's going to help with that.
They're implementing LFGs. LFGs should have been in the game 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But it's nice that they're implementing it. But it's a case of LFGs are hard because a lot of them can be dicks to people.
Oh, yeah.
As well. It's like they're also bringing this commending thing up. So if you play well or you're an LFG with somebody, even your own clan mates can say what you're good at and put you forward for commendations so people know what you're good for, which can make people strive to be the best they possibly can and help and all that. But like with clans, like as Crusader, as you said, Crusader does, a lot of clans do that. They'd help the new players through or people coming back. They reteach them and they go through everything with them. A lot the Destiny community is known for that. If you're in a clan, but randoms can be like any game can be very hit or miss. It can be.
See, I've tried not to be like that. Like on Elder Scrolls, literally, I have done it. I have gone and when we're a player short, like because you're supposed to be you have to have 4 to do the dungeon, and everybody's like, well, we always have 3, we never have a 4th. But that's where now we're going in and doing the best way to do it is you go to the dungeon entrance, and literally you will find people that are just out there kicking it, idling, because they're basically letting people know, like, hey, I want to do this. And that's some of the best way I've met people is literally, you walk up to them and you open up your chat and you start chatting with them. And that's where you find out, hey, have you done this before? No. Okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, then, you're going to probably take the healer stance because the healer has to hang out in the background. But, that we literally will help run people through dungeons that have never done it before. But some of these dungeons we've done so many times that literally it's like almost like muscle memory to do these dungeons now. And me and my bros, we've done dungeons that literally have a 0.01% completion rate because some of these dungeons
Really?
have accomplishments behind them. I mean, the gamer score. And literally, I've had some pretty rare accomplishments that are like literally 0.01, 0.02 in completing these dungeons. So yeah, that's where like you find out that there's like a lot of people that don't do these dungeons. And that was one of the things with Destiny that I kind of didn't like, the fact that a majority of the Destiny players want, like, it's really messed up. Like when you go into looking for group, oh, you've never done the raid before? Yeah, we don't want to teach somebody to do the raid. We need somebody that's experienced. We don't want to deal with you. And like literally when you would find people that would all want to come together that have never done the raid together, well, now the raid turns into a giant like circus because nobody knows how to do the raid properly. So I feel like that's where Destiny definitely did not make it very very user friendly when it came to trying to find a group, when it came to wanting to do the raid for the first time.
No, it doesn't. There's a lot of them are quite picky as well. They want specific, especially in LFG. Very specific. They want this, they want that. That's why you get a lot of clans that are friendly. It's like we're building a little clan and we're quite friendly. If you can't make it on, it don't matter. Life's life.
That's right. And like we even have some of the problems in ESO. Like we see these people in chat that are like, I only group with people that are level 1200 or higher. The game, it's like, the game scales, right? And once you hit like a level 165, you've pretty much hit like the soft cap of the game, and everything else is based on scaling. So having somebody with a lower scale than you isn't going to affect your game because the game scales. That's why I kind of chuckle at that whole situation when you see these guys are like, I'll only group with people level 1200 or higher. It's like, but the game scales. That's a moot point.
Yeah. It's a bit weird, isn't it? That is a bit weird.
But
yeah.
I guess let's not keep going down the Destiny road. Did you watch anything from Gamescom at all? Did you see anything that you were interested in?
I watched that Planet of Lana. That looks good. Did you see that one?
I missed that one. I need to watch the trailer. I think you even sent me the trailer.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That's a nice indie game that on Green Pass Gaming for some
I
reason
thought
I
you
just
said you don't
announced.
play indie games.
Yeah, on Green Pass Gaming, I actually said it. It's not true. I just don't play many per year, which
My
is
God, you
I
want me to
should play
watch
more.
18 minutes? Wow.
No, you don't need to watch 18 minutes. It's just
Very pretty looking game. Is
it's
that a
like
cat or a
Limbo.
mouse?
I'm just trying to where's your DM? And then that's it. Planet Lana. It's just a good gameplay trailer. That was all. You don't have to watch it all.
No, it was definitely interesting looking game. No, not like I've made the joke on Gaming Beyond the Box and also TXR. I'm like the town bicycle when it comes to games. Every video game gets a ride. I mean, there's a lot of games that I'm excited for when it comes to what we're going to start seeing here in the next few months, let alone the next couple years. Like Gotham Knights was not on my radar at all. The new trailer has kind of fixed that for me. I'm very curious on how that, like, they're even launching it at the end of October. Well, middle to end of October. That one is kind of on my radar. We also have don't ask me why, but have you seen the trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie? I mean, not movie, Ghostbusters game.
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. No, I know it's Ghostbusters something. I'm bad. Yeah, Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. It's gonna be 4v1. One person gets to be the ghost, the other people are like basically it's continuation of, like, God, there was a cartoon back in the day called Extreme Ghostbusters where the Ghostbusters had retired and they trained new like students of their craft to basically take their place. This is kind of on that premise where now you are playing the future Ghostbusters. And if I'm correct, we have what is it? We have Ray Stantz, or Dan Aykroyd's character, and then we also have Ernie Hudson. And Winston Zeddemore. That's right, Winston. So Ernie Hudson played Winston Zeddemore. So we have basically Ray and Winston as the two original Ghostbusters that are going to help set up the scene for this game, and they're training you and three of your friends. You can even play by yourself. I've heard that there is even going to be a way to play the game by yourself with bots.
Okay.
And it basically, you go around and trying to capture the ghost. I'm very interested on how this is going to go on 4v1. I'm normally not into games like this. I really hope this one kind of takes off. But dude, I mean, what do you think about the Harry Potter game? You not into that?
It looks good.
It looks good.
I won't play it, but it looks good. It does.
Callisto Protocol. I feel like we're going to turn this into we're going to turn this into a segment. Get Stubbs to play a game.
Yeah, it does look good.
Do you not play games like that?
No, it's a scary game. I don't play scary games.
All right. Let's see. What do we got? Dead Island 2. Well, that's another scary game, I guess you could say. Are you into like Soul style games?
See, I like the look of that game, but then I realised it was a Souls-like game.
Well, Lies of P.
Lies of P looks incredible. I did not know it was a Souls-like game.
It's not done by it, from id Software, but yeah, it's done on the premise of Souls. How about High on Life?
Now, see, I was sold on High on Life until they released that stupid Gamescom trailer. I preferred the one before. It's very random. Did not like the look of what they showed at Gamescom, but I'll still try it because it's coming to Game Pass. But I don't know why they decided to pick that. Did you like it? Because it put quite a few people off. That did.
It's going to be a very aggressive, adult-oriented game. That's for sure. What do they expect from a developer that has the guy from the creators of Rick and Morty? Like, I'm sorry, but Rick and Morty is not some groundbreaking literary work.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a bit random, but I've never seen Rick and Morty, you see.
I have seen enough of it to know I am not a fan of it. But I know some people that literally love Rick and Morty, but that is not my cup of tea. But when it comes to games like this, I was a huge fan of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I don't want games like Conker's Bad Fur Day to get, excuse the expression, mowed over by cancel culture.
Oh, I hate cancel culture. Don't get that,
dude.
That's a different podcast.
Oh, I'm not even going to get on that. But it's just for me. I love those edgy, racy games that make you laugh, like the writing from Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 4, Conker's Bad Fur Day, South Park and the Stick of Truth, South Park and the Fractured But Whole. I mean, like literally those like I even made a comment the other day of saying like, if South Park already didn't exist, do you think a show like that would be able to get on any kind of network at all? I don't think so. I think it's been grandfathered. Oh, it's just South Park. They've been here for years. But if somebody was to try to create a show like that now to get it on television, they'd be like, no.
No, wouldn't work in this era. But yeah.
What do you think of Dark Tide?
Didn't even see that.
Ooh, Dark Tide, Warhammer 40K. Developers of Vermintide did Dark Tide, which it's kind of like Vermintide, but instead of like swords and spells, it's gonna be sci-fi and guns.
Yeah, I didn't see any of that. I know what Warhammer and all that is. It's you paint the little men, don't you?
That's one aspect of it. If you want to talk about a Warhammer nut, that's Invader. Invader could sit there and tell us stuff about Warhammer all over.
He does mention it on TXR. He does.
Yes,
he does. But
yeah. And then there's Dune, the MMO Dune.
Now that looks good because I used to play that on the last time I played that game. I don't know if there's been a game since the Sega Mega CD. That's when I last played it. I don't know if there's been a game since Dune. I don't know because they're based off books. My dad used to read the books. He did, and we used to play it on the Sega Mega CD. I don't know if there's been another game since or anything.
I don't
know. That's the only reason it interested me. There was really nothing on it. There wasn't much on it at all, was there?
So Frank Herbert's Dune was 2001. That was 2001. Then we had Emperor Battle for Dune, also 2001. We had Dune 2098, Dune 2, 1992. The first Dune was 1992. That's where I'm really hoping that this Dune game. I enjoy Dune. In my opinion, at least in my opinion, Dune is the original Game of Thrones. Because rather than, everybody fighting over a piece of land, all these families and different factions in this galactic universe are all fighting over the planet Dune because the person who controls the spice controls the economy of this galactic world or this galactic universe. And
that's true.
And that's where there's a lot of lore to Dune, a real lot of cool concepts. I've seen the original Dune movie with Billy Idol in it. I've seen the sci-fi remakes of Dune and Children of Dune. Really good concepts of stories. Then like you said, there's the books. I just really don't want them to turn that game because it's supposed to be a survival MMO, and I just don't want them to turn it into Conan. I mean, I couldn't stand Conan.
I mean, that's not what pulled me. Just the fact it's Dune. I mean, I might not even play it, but it's because I used to play that Dune game and all that. I don't know if it's going to be any good. You didn't really see anything much of it, did you?
No, it just showed a dude looking over a cliff as a worm was eating one of the buildings, and then he dove off the cliff to ride the worm. And that's the other thing too. Like I don't know if people have. I still got to watch the Dune movie, the actual new one with Jason Momoa and all of them, but I'm really scared to watch it because I don't want them to. I don't want to be like, oh, they messed up the lore, because the only people who fought the worms were the people that saw the worms as destructive. When the tribes of Dune saw the worms as part of the environmental ecosystem of the planet, and that's when you find out that the worms actually create the spice. So wherever there's worms, there's spice, and the tribes would not fight the worms or try to do anything to them. They would actually hook onto the side and get up to the top of them and ride the worm and use them as like modes of transportation. And that's where, I mean, I'm really hoping they can capture the fundamental essence of Dune and create a good story around what can take place on that planet. But I just really don't want it to become a lifeless shell of a grind fest like Conan was.
No, hopefully it's a good game, but there's not much information on the game. There isn't.
No, not at all. But hey, it's still something. It's good to see that developers are wanting to explore, like, as a random thought idea. I've always said I really wish I could pitch the idea to whatever developer that was willing to listen. Why in the hell have you guys not used the Stargate franchise in an actual full-blown video game? Like, are you familiar with
really
Stargate?
Good. Yeah, I used to watch it as a kid. Yeah,
I mean,
I've seen probably all of them.
I mean, you'd be able to, like, as an MMO, pick your race. Do you want to be a Jaffa? Do you want to be on this planet? Do you want to be a human off of Earth?
I only found out recently that the guy that plays Kratos is Tilk.
Yeah, Christopher
right?
Judge.
I didn't bloody know that. I didn't.
You didn't know that? Recently. Oh my gosh!
I think you told me. Or maybe. Yeah.
No, I know I've told everybody. That's what made me get back into. That made me actually want to play the God of War remake, was because Christopher Judge. And every time he looked at Atreus and was like, "Boy," I was like, "Oh, that's Tilk. That's definitely Tilk," because he had his kid in the show, and he always called him boy. But that's where I just really think it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, like, you have the Asgard, you have the Gould, you have different like the replicators, and there's just so much lore and content there that you could have a lot of fun with. And you wouldn't just have to create this straight like 20-30 hour linear game. You could create an MMO style game where you go and explore planets and find the locations to new planets, and then help other races, or fight other races, or make alliances with other races based on whatever your decisions are and stuff like that. I mean, there would be a lot of lore there to create a really fun game, and you'd have a lot of different concepts. I mean, like, if you really got into the show, I mean, there was some cultures that lived under Norse mythology. There was other ones that lived under Egyptian mythology.
There was. It was a good show. It was. I used to watch Star Trek too. I used to watch all that sci-fi buff back in the day. I don't watch any of that stuff now. I don't. I'm scared that if I watch the new Star Trek films and stuff, it will ruin what I have great memories of Star Trek. I don't want
the ones with like the new ones with Chris Pine in them.
Are they good? I don't.
I like
the old school.
So understand, when you watch the what they call the Star Trek New Age ones, where it's actually referred to as the Kelvin timeline. And I'm not trying to give any kind of spoilers, but this is literally the first 10 minutes of the first movie. We all know from watching the original Star Trek, Captain Kirk got into Starfleet because his father was an absolute badass admiral in Starfleet, and that's what got him in to I know it's James Tiberius Kirk, so I think his name was like I forget the name of his dad. I'm really bad with names. But at any rate, we all know from watching the original Star Trek timelines, the one like the original show and Wrath of Khan and all the other Star Trek movies with William Shatner, basically Captain Kirk's character got into Starfleet because of his dad. The way that these movies start off in the very first one, the remake, is a Romulan goes back in time. I won't say why, but when he appears, he actually appears right in front of the Kelvin with Captain Kirk's father while Captain Kirk is being born on board. And this Romulan basically recognizes the ship, and he basically commands his guys to basically blow this thing away, killing Captain Kirk's father. That one incident it basically alters the timeline of the entire Star Trek universe. That's why it's called the Kelvin timeline. And I don't want to watch them, because it literally shows, like, you're going to be watching these movies and be like, oh, dude, they're getting to that point where they literally, met this guy, or they're going to do this. But then you find out things are fundamentally different because of the Romulans coming back in time and killing Kirk's father. They completely changed the destiny of Starfleet, the destiny of Captain Kirk, the destiny of Spock, and the entire Vulcan race.
Fuck them. I'm not watching it then. Fuck them. I'm not ruining my childhood.
But it was actually really cool, because it's around the concept of going back in time and altering time, and you create a divergent timeline, and then you see those moments of the things that are always destined to be repeated in history. Like, in the second movie, they encounter Khan once again, but it's one of those things where, like, you really got to get into the story, because like Spock from the original timeline also came through with the Romulans. And so he basically always hides in the background. He was played by Leonard Nimoy before he passed away. And like, there's like that movement, like in that one part in the second movie, where Spock from the new timeline is like, hey, have you ever heard of a guy named Khan? And as soon as he says the word Khan, he looks at him and he's like, you need to be very careful, because the most fun, like basically the defining moment between you and Kirk was with Khan, and he will push you beyond your limits. He is probably the most dangerous person you will ever encounter in your lifetime. And he's like, because he can't say things that alter time. And that's where it's just one of those things where there is somebody in the timeline that knows that things are different, and he can't say what's going to happen, because he goes off of the prime directive. And that's where, dude, like the three movies are very interesting. Especially the first one, when you actually go back and see exactly like how James T. Kirk was not this courageous man. He was a punk kid because he didn't have his dad there to influence him to be a better person. And that's where, I say they're worth watching, because it's definitely a really good take on, introducing these characters and just being like, oh, wow, this isn't how they originally met. Things are completely different. And yeah, it's definitely worth watching. Sorry, now we're going down a tangent.
I'll have a look anyway. I might have a look.
Watch the first movie at least and see if it's something you want to get into with the timeline. Because it's not so they are completely, they completely rewrote the beginning, the timeline of basically the concept of Starfleet, because they don't want you to be able to predict everything. So that's where watching the movies, you're waiting for those moments of like, oh, I remember that from the television show. But now you're trying to figure out how it's going to be different, and those interactions are going to be different.
I'll have to have a look then, I will. But yeah, it's been a good, interesting conversation tonight, Centurion. It has. Nice.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hopefully, I didn't piss anybody off or make them think I'm crazy or bore them.
Yeah, I think you're fine. But yeah, anyway, thanks.
I just try to be myself.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, this was live on YouTube. You can listen live. It's every 2 weeks. Next time it will be on my channel. This time it was on Centurion's channel. If you'd like to leave an Apple Podcast review, if you like the show, or Spotify review, I'd be appreciated. Do you want to tell people where they can find you, Centurion?
Well, obviously you can find me right here on where this is located, Centurion 1307. You can also find me every Wednesday night over on Gaming Beyond the Box with Wilmy Hood and the amazing crew over there. You can also find me on the TXR podcast every Sunday night, and obviously right here, Plastic Platforms, every other Monday, whether it's on my channel or Stubbs. Thank you, Stubbs. This has always been a blast doing this with you. It's always fun to have these discussions and chats. Also,
he might one day, you know, when he's on these bigger podcasts like TXR or GBT, but actually shout out Plastic Platforms. You never know. It might happen one day.
I completely gave my speech last night and forgot to mention it. Yes, I would agree. Now, in my on my defense, before Gaming Beyond the Box, we had not discussed. I think we talked on Thursday about doing this show on Monday, so it hadn't been concreted in yet. So, yes, I will have to start shouting it out.
You don't have to do it every week though, because it's not on every week.
Right. I don't know. I get weird. I try to be like, if people like, I know I have very controversial things to say and I could probably come off as an asshole, but I actually try to be very respectful and I don't try to like showboat. And that's where I sometimes feel like when I give like a very long-winded outro, it bores either the people on the show or the people listening to the show. So I always have this like thing in the back of my head of like, keep it simple and sweet, keep it simple and sweet. And because of that, I unintentionally leave things out.
That's fair. I'm only joking. Don't worry about it.
But I appreciate all your hard work, man. I mean, you put this show on completely different platforms. You even help out when it comes to like writing the descriptions and setting the shows up. And definitely,
I've scheduled 3 or 4 of them. I went over the top.
I know. I logged into StreamYard today. I'm like, oh my god, this dude's busy.
They're all set to private though. A lot of them haven't got descriptions at all. They're just in there. They are, yeah. But yeah, it's been a good show. Thanks for popping in, everyone, and tuning in. Thanks for Smitty Smith for popping in. But yeah, it's been a good chat, and we'll be back. We will be back on the. Hang on. We'll be back on the 12th of September on my channel.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the StreamYard feed of all the ones I've put in. That's how I know the date. Same time, same place. And if you're on Spotify, Apple, Google, leave us a review if you feel like we deserve a review. But yeah, it's been a good show, anyone. All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.